unfold like a diamond from gold. Maybe you are something I cannot define. Maybe you are the fallen kind. I lay in bed with violence, the silent side of me. We see where fire starts to breathe. When I would lay in silence, the voice inside of me made me lose my mind right.
We're gonna burn it down. Burn it down. We're gonna burn it down. Burn it down. I killed it, it's murder. I killed it, it's murder. I killed it, it's murder. I killed it, it's murder.
I killed it, it's murder, go crazy, berserker. I killed it, it's murder, go crazy, berserker. I killed it, it's murder, go crazy, berserker. I killed it, it's murder, go crazy.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talking Siege. We are here with another show for you guys to talk about everything Rainbow Six that's been happening in the recent week. And we have a special guest as well, the one and only Robert Monday, aka Manic, who recently has just come off casting the Rainbow Six Pro League APAC finals for season 10 over the weekend. And we also, of course, have Cthulhu and Sky as usual. But Rob, first time on the podcast. How you doing, mate?
Oh, mate, I feel privileged to come on the podcast. I think, it's been I've always tuned in and said hello, but I've never been able to fully have my presence on. So I'm happy to be here, mate, and I'm always good, mate. I'm always good.
I'm glad that we could grab you because we are talking about APAC finals in tonight's episode. Lots to touch on. And yeah, I mean, we'll get you some of your insights too later. But for those of you who are just joining us, this is a podcast where we go over everything Rainbow Six has been happening, whether that's game news, it's been coming out, the latest updates, latest patches. We touch on the esports scene a lot, especially for the ANZ, Australia, New Zealand, and the APAC region, Asia Pacific. And we also touch on a lot of community content as well. With the APAC finals just over last weekend and the Pro League finals in Japan coming up next month, we're going to be talking a lot about that tonight, breaking down those matches that you saw over the weekend. But first up, we are going to talk about something that's new that has been brought into the game. It's the Battle Pass, the mini Battle Pass. It's called Call Me Harry. This is now available on Rainbow Six. If you launch the game, you'll see a giant pop-up. You click that, there's a video you can watch for more information as well. Basically what this is a system that allows you to unlock more things by playing the game in different ways, similar to how there are already daily and weekly challenges in the game. So it's active for 7 days, and there are 7 different tiers. You unlock rewards with each tier, and at the end you can get a Harry Chibi charm, Harry being the leader of Team Rainbow. He is the 6th. The way that you can earn points and progress through these tiers is by playing the game. Various actions like winning matches, losing matches will earn you different amounts of points. You progress through the tiers, you unlock some stuff And this is a testing ground for the full battle pass that will be coming at some point during year for season 4. That is the upcoming season. So if you have any feedback, if you have like any bugs to report or anything like that, go over to R6 Fix and give your feedback and tell them what you think, and the developers will take that into account for the full battle pass coming next season. But when that's done and dusted, let's talk about esports. It's APAC finals, which is on our minds at the moment. Cthulhu, why don't you take us through what's been happening over the weekend?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, APAC finals happened. The top 2 teams from 4 sub-regions gathered in Sydney this weekend to pretty much battle it out for 2 spots that would guarantee them essentially appearance at the Tokoname finals, aka the season 10 global finals, as well as the invitation to 6 Invitational 2020, which is coming up very rapidly as well. I'm quite excited for that. And I mean, so far, just globally, season 10 of Pro League has been just filled with surprises, and APAC line was not a exclusion from that as well. So, gentlemen, quickly, let's go over initially the matches that went down. Then we'll get over talk about a little bit the results and pretty much what we expected and what happened as well, and as well as some of the storylines. So we had, for the first day, was Fnatic versus Airwolf, Cloud9 versus Norengo, Cyclops versus Trippy, and Xavier versus Wildcard. So, gents, 2 of you, Dev and Manic, you casted those matches. Which ones were your highlights, probably?
Rob, you want to go first there?
Yeah, I guess I'll take it. I mean, I think that we'd probably have similar favorite maps here, or matches even. Definitely the Fnatic and Aerowolf was I couldn't think of a better way to kickstart a weekend of massive games than to come out of the gates with an underdog beating, an APAC Titan. But then, I think Wildcard as well, that game against Xavier, I think it was just as easily could have gone the other way with Xavier. They're, by no means a pushover and quite a strong squad. So I think both of those were definitely the highlights for me.
Yeah, I got to agree with that one. The Fnatic Airwolf game, one of the best I've casted in a really, really long time. And it was unfortunate as an ANZ representative not to see Fnatic go through. But this is, as we were talking about just before we went live, this is the first time that Fnatic has failed to qualify for a global event for the last 2 years. 2 years ago, their very first APAC finals happened and they failed to qualify. They lost to what is now Cloud9 in the semifinals. But ever since then, 2018, 2019, so far, they've been to every single global pro league and every single major as well. And that stopped this time around. And in contrast, we have that beautiful fairy tale story of Airwolf.
Yeah, I think even Mentalist tweeted it out already post the APAC line, is that the way how Airwolf, up until the season 10, been called the gatekeepers of APAC, this time the gates have closed, pretty much. And yeah, I definitely would have to agree. I watched that match of Fnatic versus Airwolf, and I was like pretty much 98% of the people that watched it and voted, even in the Strafe app, we were pretty much all sure that, yeah, well, Airwolf are a good team, but nobody really expected Airwolf to win. It was very much in favor of Fnatic. Historically, Fnatic were the ones to beat it, even with such close scoreline. And then when you start seeing that scoreline form up in favor of Airwolf, it was like, is this actually happening?
Yeah, it was crazy, especially because all the maps did go to the full 12 rounds. It could have gone overtime. We didn't see an overtime on any of those maps. It was 7-5, 7-5, 7-5. Airwolf took it. A huge accomplishment for them. Another, like you mentioned before, Rob, the other match that I think was the real highlight was that Xavier wildcard one, a really close game and a rematch as well from the last season Pro League APAC finals when wildcard was beaten by Xavier. Now, Rob, you were casting that one with Raven. What was that like? Such a comeback story for wildcard, winning maps 2 and 3, especially having that Aussie crowd as well.
Look, I think, when you look back at season 9 and it's a rematch of the exact same quarterfinal, I would dare say Wildcard were coming into it a little bit stressed. So I wouldn't say stressed. That's probably not the right way to put it. But definitely a monkey on their back to try and shrug off coming into an event of this magnitude and kind of with these kind of opportunities up for grabs. You know, two massive international events. It was huge for them to realistically take down Xavier in that first match because there was undoubtedly a lot of pressure on them. This is the first time Wildcard have, I believe, been to any event under Wildcard. You know, we've known them as Augless for so long, nearly 10 months we've known them as Augless for. So I think coming into this, you know, the additional, the addition to coming into a new roster and coming up to a team like Xavier was daunting for us in the ANZ region. You know, I was trying not to show it on stream because, of course, casters can't be biased, but I think by all means it was still quite close. Wildcard with that reverse sweep though, man. Like, you know, when Xavier came through 7-3 on Cafe, they looked like they were absolutely deleting Wildcard. Like, I'll be completely honest, on Cafe, I was a little bit concerned because Xavier just had everything down pat. But the second it changed into Coastline, man, they took over the entire match, right? It was 7-1, I think the scoreline was in the end. It was just an absolute stomp, a complete polar opposite performance. And of course, Clubhouse, like, what an absolute banger to close out as well.
You know what I found really, really interesting was when I was watching that match, sitting in the crowd, I saw map 1, Xavier on Cafe. They looked so good, and Wildcard did look a little lost. You mentioned that was a 7-3 victory for Xavier. I've got to admit, yeah, I had my ANZ bias out there for Wildcard. I've been working for such a long time for this opportunity, but I thought, Xavier's got it 2-0 after that performance. Yeah. And I was talking to Silex after the event, who's the coach of Wildcard, and he said that when the team was talking after that first map went, they knew that they weren't great on Cafe, and when they got 3 rounds against Xavier, they're like, yeah, we're winning this whole series. They knew it right then and there, and I couldn't believe that. And right they were. They didn't only do that, but they went through the semis as well against Cyclops, another revenge match to make it to Tokoname and get that spot at 6th Invitational. What a set of series, and just the fairy tale story. We keep saying that word, but it has been an absolute fairy tale. The two serious underdogs of this event, they've been working so hard for such a long time. They don't have the level of support some of these other teams like Fnatic, like Norengo, even Cloud9, and yet they've had this upset and they've made it all the way global. Sky, I thought maybe you'd be interested in jumping in here. Was there a particular match that we maybe haven't discussed yet that you wanted to put the spotlight onto?
No, I've got to agree with you guys. I think those two matches there were absolutely the standouts. Obviously, you had the Cloud9 Norengo game, which was also a pretty close one, went to 3 maps, and we saw Nora take that in the end. And I guess with each iteration, it's always heartbreaking to see Cloud9 not quite, I guess, live to their full potential, and it really makes you feel for them. And let's hope that moving into the future, we can see Cloud9 back out, hopefully at the next APAC finals, and strike with a vengeance. And obviously, Summer Rain departing as well is a big I guess hit to the team.
Yeah, maybe you guys want to talk about Cloud9 for a moment, because they're a team we haven't quite talked about so much, and they didn't perform as well. You mentioned Summer Rain leaving the team as well. What do we think that Cloud9 really needs to do? Is it overseas scrimming, getting that kind of out of that Korean region? What is it that we need to see from Cloud9 to actually take that next step and perform well at an APAC event?
I would say that it will be, in my eyes, they will be definitely trying to get out of the kind of Korean region and see if they can scrim some more teams outside of the Korean sub-region. I'd imagine they're probably already doing this since Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia are somewhat close to each other, so the pings won't be as bad as, like, say, Australia to Japan or Australia to Southeast Asia. But yeah, it feels like they, at least from what I saw, I didn't see fully the whole matchup between Cloud9 and Nora, but it felt like they were occasionally just trying to force the same strat over and over again, where it was just seeming like it wasn't really working out, and they didn't really have a backup plan to it. Maybe I'm just maybe I was interpreting it wrong, but yeah, do feel free to correct me on that one.
I guess the thing that's just so disappointing for Cloud9, like, yeah, they got a map this time, which is great. It was against Norengo as well, who, while they haven't quite been so hot recently, they're still a good team.
Yeah.
Cloud9, like, this is two APAC lands back to back since they've been picked up by C9, one of the biggest esports
right.
teams in the world. And last season against Airwolf, they got destroyed 7-1, 7-1. They only got 2 rounds. And this time they don't get past quarters again. And it's so sad to see because Cloud9, they're some of the most humble players and some of the kindest people that I've had the pleasure of seeing at events. And I really want to see them take that next step.
I mean, if to a certain degree, the way how they're going right now, it feels like almost Orgless prior to getting picked up by Wildcard, really, because you can see they making progress on their performance. Yes, this time they managed to take off a map off Nora. Maybe next time we'll be seeing them take off the full game of Nora and go into semis, but then lose out on semis. And then after the on the second after the next APAC land, they'll be able to win it. So maybe it's a matter of time. Maybe it's something that is just some of the certain teams just end up reading into their plays, like Airwolf, like Nora. Maybe. It's just the bracket that wasn't really in their favor this time. What do you guys think?
Look, I'll quickly put my 2 cents in here. I think that for Cloud9, you look at the teams in their region, right? You look at the results that they get in their region. They realistically should never be losing. I hate to say that, but period, in their region, they shouldn't be losing to any team. And for the past 2 seasons, Dev, we were talking about this at the APAC LAN, the fact that they haven't lost a game in Pro League, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah,
when I look at a team like that, I'm a lot newer to Rainbow Six than a lot of other people. Like I've only just come on this year with really doing my research and finding out more about these teams. But I think that it's a very simple solution for Cloud9 to continue improving, which is you have to move regions now. You have to challenge yourself. You can't consistently be playing against teams that are easy like this, because to be completely honest, you're not learning anything as a roster, and you are never being challenged, which we always say, mistakes and losses is where you learn the most.
And I think even not necessarily moving regions, say during the Pro League season, but just getting that experience out of their region, I wouldn't be opposed to Cloud9 never scrimming another Korean team again until some of those Korean teams start to work up to their level. Because at the moment, Cloud9, they're probably surely thinking about, now we really need to make that next step. We're thinking about ourselves. We want to be more competitive with the other teams in the APAC region and beyond that. We've seen teams like Fnatic in the past as well. They do go overseas to scrim. Fnatic, before they go to global events, they do a boot camp in London in the Fnatic headquarters. They get the opportunity to play against all of the European teams who are known to be some of the best in the world. If we saw Cloud9 get the opportunity to go and scrim in Europe, maybe go scrim in North America, where I know Cloud9 have a lot of facilities, maybe they would get that extra bit of experience. They would have more chance to play against different metas and be able to elevate their own game, take that over to APAC finals, and then hopefully make a return to those global events.
I mean, look at Fnatic. For such a long while, they went on a fairly not fairly few, sorry, wrong wording, on a great variety of different boot camps as well outside of the region. They went to Europe, to London for boot camp. They went to Japan for boot camp, and they've managed to gain so much experience, so much knowledge about how to play at teams outside of APAC, and it pretty much got them where they are right now. They had a pretty long run. They had a pretty long streak of just being considered one of the best teams in APAC and managing to represent it for so long and with some pretty admirable results on a fair few occasions. So I certainly think, I would definitely agree with you guys that C9 definitely need to get out of the region, start kind of essentially mixing up their current meta with some more international ones, even with the way how even ANZ plays. because even how the ANZ competitive scene is currently evolving, with the way how now wildcarders are about to bring back after the global finals and after invitational, they'll bring in some knowledge and some experience with that, and it'll passively will continue to evolve our scene as well. So I definitely do agree that they need to kind of get out of that comfort zone, essentially.
I guess I have a quick question
Yeah.
for you guys. I think the general consensus seems to be between us that what Cloud9 need is, that experience against other APAC teams or just international teams at that. And that is something they're getting at, very slowly in extremely small portions at these APAC lands and events where, they might play a match, maybe they'll scrim a few teams. Do you think that we can see incremental improvements since being acquired by Cloud9, or do you feel like it's sort of been on quite a steady slope?
That's so hard to say because this team, when they were known as Mantis and Element Mystic in the past, they have been to so many of these APAC LAN events. And relative to the other teams in the region, they've actually dropped back. The very first Pro League APAC finals we had was Season 6 2 years ago to this month. And Cloud9, then known as Mantis, they were one of the two teams to make it to that grand final, to get the spot at the next event, which was the Pro League finals in can't remember what city
Brazil,
it was.
was it? Somewhere in Brazil?
Yeah, it was in Brazil. I can't remember what city
Rio.
it was. Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo, yeah.
It wasn't Rio. It was Sao Paulo. My bad. So they made it to Sao Paulo. They got second best in the region. They destroyed Fnatic, which was then Mindfreak, 2-0. And since then, we just haven't quite seen the same from Cloud9. They have had some victories at those major qualifiers. The Paris major qualifier, they did take a victory on. And we've seen that in the past. They come through. They used to be that third best team that would push through, take that victory over teams like Airwolf and Wildcard. But it's not been quite the same as of late. I feel like Cloud9 hasn't been on that steady train of improvement that we'd like to see from them, and that incremental improvement that you mentioned, Sky. I'm just not seeing that right now, so I'm a little bit worried for them. But I have full confidence that with that organization behind them, that support team, they're going to figure out what is the recipe for getting to that next step. I really personally think it is scrimming some of those teams outside of Korea, as many Japanese teams as possible, because Japan, as you mentioned, Cthulhu, geographically very close to Korea, so there's no problem with ping. And Japanese teams are some of the best, despite them both being knocked out during this APAC finals. Norengo, Cyclops, Guts Gaming, FAV, so many of these teams would be really good practice for Cloud9. Moving further out of that, going up against teams like Xavier, going up against Airwolf, Southeast Asia, still geographically close enough to scrim. If you're lucky, you could try get some ANZ teams. I know you're dealing with a bit more ping there, but practicing against teams like Wildcard, Fnatic, Oddity, and other teams in the ANZ Pro League would be great experience for Cloud9, even though that they're probably they probably fare quite well against those teams. And what I really want to see, the final thing, is just international boot camps. Go to North America, go to Europe if you can afford it, because I think Europe is even better practice, and scrim so many different teams. Challenger League in Europe in particular is incredibly competitive, and you have so many teams that you could scrim and learn a lot from. So hopefully, if we do see that, Cloud9 can improve for future events.
Yeah. But on the topic, just to segue slightly further down the bracket, semi-finals, big upsets. Both on the upper bracket and bottom bracket. Airwolf Nora 2-0. Cyclops Wildcard 2-0. And both of those were very impressive scorelines as well. I mean, Airwolf Nora
got 3 rounds.
3 rounds, 7-1 and 7-2. And with Wildcard, prior to their matchup, the last time that Wildcard versus Cyclops was during the Rally Major APAC LAN. And back then, Cyclops, I believe, won 2-1. Yep. And this time, 2-0 for Wildcard. Like, the fact that they got support from the org and the bootcamp prior to APAC LAN seemed to have worked out quite well, honestly.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think that boot camp definitely did have an effect. It's something we've just been talking about for Cloud9. And even when it's not necessarily in a different region, having that experience to hang out with your teammates and do that practice, get as much in as you can, certainly is something that we've seen have an effect on teams. We saw it have an effect on Oddity this year from the ANZ Pro League. They had quite a few boot camps so far and lead up to 6 Masters where they almost beat Fnatic, who won the whole event. So yeah, I'm really happy for Wildcard. They've been grinding for a really, really long time. I think they really deserve this opportunity. I was very surprised that they did beat Cyclops. I thought Cyclops were going to be the stronger team. I think they really got into their own heads after that first map. Cyclops, they were up 6-3. There was an unfortunate technical issue, and then we saw Wildcard win 5 straight rounds. Now, Rob, you were casting that one, and I could hear the frustration in your voice and in Ravens because Cyclops, they were beating their head against the wall.
Yep. Yeah, it's, like you can, I think there was as much frustration in our movement as there was in our voices because, like you said, Dev, 6-3, they were up. We were in the basement, we were all the way down on bank. And Cyclops just continued to head there. Like there was no change up in the site. Look, there was a change up in the strategy. The first round, we saw a run out. We saw a couple of spawn peaks. Didn't go the way of Cyclops. Look, all hats off to them. I like that call. It was a good idea. The problem is they then just couldn't get out of their own head, like you said, and Wildcard were just able to capitalize on that. There were multiple opportunities for Cyclops to win this. There was a 1v1 in which Wildcard, it was like 10 seconds left. I think Emo Rim was in server room coming into the site, and the Cyclops player peeked him instead of, waiting for the plan or forcing Emo to be a little bit more uncomfortable and have to make a decision. So I think there were definitely points in time for Cyclops to take map number 1. Had we have gone into map number 2 with Cyclops taking that first initial, that first point, taking bank, it would have been a very different storyline, regardless of how close both of these matches were. I think there were multiple points in time for Cyclops to win this. So it is a little bit disappointing for me, coming from the Raleigh quals and seeing what Cyclops were able to achieve there, that they weren't able to replicate that kind of result, especially in that semi-final there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that one, Rob. It was hard to see for Cyclops, and I think the real kicker for me is that we have our first Pro League finals ever held in the APAC region in Tokoname in Japan, and we do not have any Japanese teams attending the event competing for that Pro League champion spot. Norengo knocked out in the semis, embarrassingly, with only winning 3 rounds, and Cyclops as well, banging their head against the wall, really struggling there. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially for all the Japanese fans. But I was talking to Kizoku, and I said, "Are you going to be in Tokoname?" And he says, "Yes, of course." So I have no doubt that we will see these teams there attending the event, being there for all of their fans as well. So I have no doubt it'll be a fantastic event, even though there are no Japanese teams there.
I mean,
now to round out this topic about APAC finals, I want to bring up something that Flux, who's actually Wildcard's coach, one of Wildcard's coaches, brought up in the chat. And he's talking about the invitational qualifiers and how many amazing teams there are going to be fighting for that spot in invitational, because Airwolf and Wildcard have already qualified, which means we have Fnatic, Cloud9, Norengo, Cyclops, Xavier, even other ANZ teams like Oddity. All of these teams are going to be fighting. They will have one team from each of the sub-regions to play at the APAC LAN event for that qualifier, and only one of them is going to be going all the way through. Like, imagine trying to choose like Nora or Cyclops. Only one of them will qualify for that LAN. Fnatic and Oddity, there's possibility for some serious competition there as well. And Xavier, I think that's probably a given that they'll make it through. Same for Cloud9. So that is going to be such a tight LAN event, and just trying to swallow the pill that only one of those teams is going to go through. Man, I'm choking already.
Yeah, I was watching the games yesterday with Gaz, and I think Cthulhu were there too at one point. And literally, like after all was said and done, after we knew who were locked in, it was straight away like, Invitational LAN is going to be absolutely insane. Like, it is going to be an event to watch. There's going to be potentially one of, that's like, just so, like, every single one of those, I feel like every single one of those 4 teams that make this LAN have in their own right deserve to go on to that next stage.
Yeah,
and we can only have one.
Yeah, because no matter what the outcome of the APAC LAN is going to be, there's going to be an upset one way or another. If it's like a single ANZ team that will go, if it's a single Japanese team, Southeast Asian, Korean, heck, you never know. And at this point, like with season 10 being this unpredictable, I mean, yeah, my mind's blown. My mind is blown by just the sheer results, and to be honest, massive congratulations for Airwolf and Wildcard. The grind finally paying off.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fairy tale story for both of them. Now let's reel it in. We talked a lot about APAC finals. We wanted to briefly touch on the Tokoname Pro League finals, as we do have the bracket draw done live on broadcast. Sky, why don't you touch on this, and then we'll just go straight into our host picks and close the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I guess I'll just start off by saying it was really, really exciting to see APAC actually got to draw the matches. That's something we haven't had the pleasure of doing before, and I thought that was really cool. A really cool implementation. So yeah, we had our matches drawn. The brackets on the screen, as you can see. Semi 1 will be Aero, who is the first seed versus the second seed of Europe Giants. Dark Zero, first seed NA versus second seed Latin. NIP, first seed Latin versus second seed NA. NIV is first seed EU versus second seed APAC. So some really barn burner matchups there. Rob, thoughts on this draw?
To be honest, I don't have exact thoughts. I'm just going to be completely honest in saying that. You guys have already summed up about the APAC teams and making this through. I think that it's going to be hard to for me to watch. I'll be completely honest, because this will probably be my first international event that I'm able to watch in the time zone. So it actually means I'm going to be able to watch every match. So I'm just looking forward to it. If I'm being completely honest on that front.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough fight for both APAC teams coming up against both European teams, but especially for Wildcard, I think Na'Vi is definitely a mortal team. They've only just came into Pro League, and I would love to see Wildcard give them a serious fight. Bracket's looking fantastic. I'm really excited for Tokoname.
Yeah, likewise. I'm definitely keen for that Airwolf Giants game, Giants matchup, because Airwolf is still considered the big underdog. They just managed to qualify, but I reckon they got some tricks up their sleeves left. Same goes for Wildcard, honestly. If a single bootcamp gives them this much power comparative to their previous performances, imagine what's gonna happen. Like, say they go a week or week and a half earlier before the finals and go for scrims. My goodness, they can be a force to be reckoned with. And if they manage to beat Na'Vi, I'd say that, heck, they could probably head to the grand final straight away. But that's just me.
Yeah, I would love to see it. It's certainly going to be an exciting global finals. We will crown a new Pro League champion. None of these teams have ever won Pro League before, so be sure to tune in on the 9th and the 10th of November next month on twitch.tv/Rainbow6 or on the R6 Esports YouTube channel. It's going to be a very exciting stream to watch. Now, before we close out, let's just quickly go through our top picks, the favorite things that myself, Cthulhu, and Sky have found through the week. A lot of them, in fact, all three of them are related to that APAC finals. So, Cthulhu, you kick it off first.
Yeah, so mine was pretty much the tweet from Kander, who was pretty much added hysteric saying, "Stop dabbing, please." And it's just pretty much the whole video is 5 seconds.
He can't help himself, man. Hysterics every single LAN event.
Yeah.
He always goes for it. You can't shut the man down.
Yeah, not at all. How about yourself, guys?
My top pick of the week is going to be a picture of the team behind the APAC LAN. I think it's really awesome to see that they're getting a team photo, and I guess maybe, I don't know if it's a common misconception, but I think it's really cool to see that, it isn't just the faces on camera that sort of make up these LAN. There's so many people behind the scenes that put in so much hard work, the player managers, the admins, production, and it's just really cool to see everyone sort of getting spotlight. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone has a really hard job. Brandon, our director, he's incredibly talented, as is the whole production team. The two Michaels, who are our observers, were really, really good. The player managers, all of the league ops guys on stage, the admins, they were doing a really good job, even with some very, very tough decisions that had to be made. And of course, Alex Blakey, the guy in that beautiful hat who made me pizza. I got to thank him for that. One thing I will say, taking this photo, there was no room for me right now. I'm like I'm like falling on top of the person in front of me, like squatting down, and my legs are killing me because I was so tired. And so I'm actually surprised that I didn't like collapse and fall right on top of everyone in front of
I
me.
mean, I can imagine you collapsing over there. Anyways, how
Yeah,
about your host pick, Dev?
Yeah. So I'm mentioning Alex Blakey's pizza. My host pick for this week is a bit of content from Danny Kim. So in the background, it is Danny Kim, the stage host from the APAC finals, showing off Alex Blakey's beautiful pizza that he was concocting during the events. And yeah, it was lots of fun. Alex Blakey actually used to cast Rainbow Six way back in the day, about 2 years ago. He was also a stage host about a year and a half ago for our event. So he's a real character. I love him. And also Danny Kim, who was a stage host during APAC finals. He was fantastic. So I hope everyone else enjoyed the talent and Danny Kim and Jordan Mays, especially, who was on the desk, as much as we enjoyed working with them.
Yes. But yeah, I think that's about a wrap up for us, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's it. So thanks for tuning in this week, and be sure to tune in next week as well. Every Monday we are here, same time, same place. Next week we'll be having a bit more of a deep dive into the Tokoname Pro League finals. A lot to talk about. Now, don't forget that the Battle Pass is also live, so you can boot up Rainbow Six and get some extra in-game rewards. So make sure you check that out. And until then, we'll see you next time.